let's just fast forward a bit. So we know that this idolatry thing is just stamped into human nature. Wanting, worshipping something to give me something. I do this for you, you do that for me. I give you something, I give you my child, infant. So a tribe will give, okay, we're going to sacrifice this infant for the sake of rain or whatever like that, because we need to appease the god. So it's a transactional relationship. There's no real relationship or love there. It's just, you give me that, it's just horrible, and that is what religion is all about. That is the essence of religion. It's not about relationship, it's about transaction. It's like a contract, not a covenant. You could say one is a contract, the other is a covenant. But God is a covenant God, but these people are contractual with their gods. You give me, you cut up your babies, and I'll give you some rain or whatever, things like that. Disgusting stuff. These people were terrible, what they were doing. So I have a bit of a rant there. So this is what was happening. So Israel comes in, does the Israel thing, starts rising up, but we all know the history. King David has risen up, blah blah blah. He takes over, and Israel has all their problems. They kind of keep slipping back to the old ways of idolatry. Think about what happened with Moses when he went up. God took them across the Red Sea, took them out of Egypt, showed them all their miracles. Moses went up on top of the mountain there, Mount Sinai, and after a couple of weeks, the Israelites are going, well, we don't know what's happened with Moses. Let's worship God. So what's the first thing that they do to worship God? They get everyone's gold, boil it all, melt it all down, create a picture of a bull, which is basically Baal. It was a god known as Baal, because this is the god that's going to give me this, that, and the next. This is the god that they knew, that the Egyptians, etc., and in ancient times of past were what people used to believe. Oh, this is a god which gives me this, this, and this, and the Bible also says the people rose up to play, which is basically saying, yes, they were having sexual relations outside of marriage. The people rose up to say they were doing their sex acts as well, along with running around this golden calf, thinking that they were worshipping Yahweh. So they thought they were worshipping Yahweh, but Yahweh was saying, do not worship me like you would worship the other nations. Okay, just do not do that. Do not make a carved image. Okay, so, but that ingrained habit was there. Oh, because we're in the wilderness, we need to make sure we get rain, we need to get this, so we need to do this, we do that. So it's just an ingrained habit. And then this habit also continues through, if we go past the years of David and Solomon, and if we look into the book of Kings, there's one pattern that stuck out to me. Is most of the kings just started worshiping these gods, these other deities, or these other gods, but there were only three kings that completely obliterated any kind of idolatry. Right? There were quite a few kings that were reformer kings, and they would turn Israel back to God. But there was one thing that that many of these kings did not do. Even though they destroyed idols and that in the temple or near the temple or associated with that, there were these high places on the hills that the people were still going up there to do their sacrifices, to these locations, at high locations. Remember the Tower of Babylon? Remember that, guys? Going up to an elevated location or a specific location to offer up a sacrifice to a god. Now, they thought they were offering up sacrifices to Yahweh, but that's not how Yahweh operates. He's not a transactional God. He's not an appeasing God. It was all, you see, idolatry is all about appeasement. Appease this God and he will give you this. Appease that and he will give you this. So it's transactional. But God was saying, I want, there was only 3 kings, mind you. It was Hezekiah. Sorry. The first one was David. David did not worship God on the high places, and he did not teach the people to do it. It was Solomon that actually did that. But David did not do that, right? So it was David, it was Hezekiah, and Josiah. Only 3 kings that tore down all the high places and banished it all. No, nobody's allowed to worship on anywhere high places, anywhere. And if they did, they were put to death. So that was that. Interesting, isn't it? Only 3 men understood how important it was to get rid of that. So that's that interesting. Just that ingrained habit to have a transactional, appeasing relationship with a God that says, if I do this for you, you will do that for me. If I do this for you, you will do that for me. Rather than like a covenantal, trusting relationship, walking by faith and just committing your life into the hands and trusting a good God and just trusting that he's good, he's going to take care of you. No, it was like a trade-off. I'll give you this firstborn son offered up on a thing, and then you will give me that in return. So there's scriptures that says, I am sick and tired. God says, I am sick of your sacrifices and your feasts and everything and all you do and sacrifices. He says, I want obedience. You do all these things, sacrifice, but you can't even treat your fellow man right. You can't look after the widow. You can't look after the father. You're taking advantage of each other. You're not treating each other how you're supposed to be treating each other. God hated that. It was just about appeasing, and that wasn't God's nature. He didn't need to be appeased. He wanted mankind to live with each other and love one another and love God, but it's not an appeasing thing. So the thing about this appeasement thing is it doesn't crucify the flesh. It takes somewhat an effort to obey God and be relational and love your neighbor. You got to listen to your conscience to obey his law, right? So you can see how this old idolatry kept creeping back into their mindset about appeasing a God, right? So now let's fast forward to time of Jesus. Jesus comes along and he presses the reset button again. He says to the Samaritan woman, the famous interaction, the beautiful interaction, he says, you know what? There's coming a time, or the time is now, where you're not going to worship God in the temple. You're not going to worship God on this hill anywhere. But the true worshippers of Yahweh, the invisible God, will worship him in spirit and in truth. In other words, just obedience to him. Obedience to him, the invisible God. You cannot worship this God at a location, at a temple anymore. You can't go to a location and think that by going to that location, you are now worshiping Yahweh and appeasing him. He hates that. He does not like that. And so basically, we have a God that says you must worship him in truth. There must be no pretense. There must be complete and total honesty with God. No pretense, no appeasement. He is not a God that needs appeasement. He's a God that wants to be in covenant with us and wants to have a relationship with us and wants us to have a relationship with each other. So that's what Jesus did, and it really wound up the Pharisees for doing that, did it not? Because they had all their rules and lists and rules, and this is what you need to do. You need to do this, this, and this, and this to appease this God. These Pharisees did not really love that God. They didn't really love God. So they were misrepresenting God to the people, these Pharisees. It was like a God of appeasement, right? Obey all these laws and then God will do something for you. Jesus was saying, no, that's not what it's all about. So, pay your dues. So God says, in one, I think it's in one of the, I'm not going to quote a chapter and verse, but he says, I just desire obedience and not sacrifice. He's just tired of all these pretentious sacrifices and things that the Israelites were doing. I just want you to be kind, to be able to walk humbly with your God, to not take advantage of people, not rip people off, not take bribes, be a man of your word, don't lie, don't commit adultery, all these things. The Bible says in I think Peter, it was the Apostle Paul, he says to offer up our bodies as a living sacrifice. So he's not asking for any other sacrifice. It's our bodies. In other words, he's talking really about our flesh. And our flesh wants to just appease and just take the easy route. But the hard route is to do the hard work of character development and just being obedient to the invisible God and loving him and loving our neighbor. So it's all about money, so how, and let's fast forward from the time of Jesus to the time of now. Now we have a post-Christian world, the Western world. We have the Western world where us as Westerners, we don't understand this whole carved image, molten image idolatry thing. It makes no sense to us. We look down on it. We frown upon it. We think that people do those things are fools. We don't respect it at all, because we're living in a post-Christian world. Whether we're brought up in a Christian family, that stuff has been removed from our heritage. We don't do it. There's no temptation to do it either. But in place of these physical carved images, we have other idols. They're a bit more subtle. We don't have them sitting up on our windowsills or whatever like that, or when we don't literally go to a place to worship them. But we have other idols. And these are things that if we appease, if we do something, then we get something, right? And I have written down here government, government. If we appease the government, then we'll have all our needs. And I think socialism is really a form of idolatry. I think socialism is a form of idolatry. So many twisted and warped ideologies. People think that people's intellectual ability, like their smartness, science or so-called science, people are worshipping that as being the source of truth. In the Western world today, it's all about being popular. How many people like me, love me, how many likes. That's an idol. That's an idol. You can't please God, really please him, and seek after and go after recognition and popularity. You can't do it. Now God, in his wisdom, might decide to give you some of that, but can he take it away from you and you still be going to, and you not chase it after it? Is it what are you looking for it? I can tell you many people are looking that, especially Christians, right? So just remember what Jesus said. He says, you're in trouble if people keep saying good things about you. I think he said it on the Sermon on the Mount, but blessed are you when man persecutes you, say all kinds of evil things about you. And he says, woe to the people who are always being praised and honored and all things like that. There's something is not right, because in human nature we have a flesh, and the flesh hates and cannot obey God's things, and the spirit. So it takes God. It takes the Spirit of God. You have to ask him to help you be aligned with his spirit. You know, you need him. So yeah, so that's a lot of thoughts there, isn't it? Remember what John said in one of his letters. The Apostle John said, "Brethren, keep yourself from idols." He says, "Little children." No, he says, "Little children, keep yourself from idols." So the context of the day was Rome. There were heaps of gods around. It was pressure to worship gods. It would have affected people's business, ability to do business, etc., favor, whatever. So there was pressure to do it. But we don't have that sort of stuff going on today. But it's a scripture, so it applies to us just as much today. Pressure to conform, pressure to go along with the world, various hidden pressures that we can be subject to. Pressure to fit in, to be relevant in this world. And we should not, we don't want to isolate ourselves from the world because we're still part of it and we're there to reach the world, but we should not be seeking at all to fit in with the world. We are salt and light. If anyone's going to change, it's going to be the world that repents and starts looking to the Christian, to the believer, for answers and how to follow the one true invisible God. He's an invisible God, and those who worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of rabbit holes that you could go down with a lot of that, and a lot of research to do. I have had some time to have a look into this, and I hope you I don't know, I hope it helped someone, made someone think about some things. Be careful of idols. Just follow Yahweh, follow God, follow Jesus. Follow the gospel, the simplicity of the gospel. Again, another thing, don't get too complicated with your relationship with God. Okay, you go online, you see all kinds of rabbit holes that people can go down in Christianity. But I have found that just to keep it simple, I've been walking with God for 25 years now. And I've had ups and downs, and I've made mistakes, and I've learnt a lot, but keeping it simple is the best way to go. Trust him because he knows your life. He knows what you can handle. One of the things I notice about the flesh is that the flesh wants things to happen quickly in life, quickly. Now look at Abraham. Things did not happen quickly. Things happened suddenly out of the blue, but not quickly. It was a very long period of time. So God, he wants to develop trust, that we trust him so that he can trust us whenever he wants to do something countercultural. Can he trust us? Can he rely upon us to do something countercultural, which is going to challenge the culture of the day? And he develops that trust on us with time, pressure and time. It's a refining process. It's a refining process that we just need to submit to. it. So yes, I have promises that God made me, and they haven't come to pass. But you know what? I don't fret and stress. I don't push, pray, keep praying, keep fasting about it. I did that in the past. No, I just trust God and I wait for his timing. And so I'm a son of God. And sons don't fret and worry and don't push and don't try and achieve. Oh, if I fast for 40 days, then God will do this. No. You're appeasing God again. You're trying to appease God like he's not already loving you. He loves you. It will come in his timing. I've made a lot of these mistakes myself. So, I understand where people are coming from if you're doing that. I'll pray in tongues for 4 hours. And I went through those phases. And I do pray in tongues, but this is more of it's not a transactional thing. It's being as led by the Spirit. It's a flow to it. And I just continue to trust the Lord because he's a loving Father. One of the things about God you eventually get to learn is he's a loving Father. And so just trust him, trust his timing. Don't become impatient and go back to old ways or old ways of thinking, old ways of doing and trying to force things in your life. I hope it blesses for you. God bless you. Take care. Love you. Bye.